Hello everybody, this is Travis. Today we're going to be doing a video about GameStop and just talking about like some of the tactics. Keep in mind, this isn't really more of a rant as it is like an awareness video, but it's really just to kind of get you, just to kind of like educate you on a little bit. Like, you know, like if you're going to go to GameStop, you know, kind of do a little research first. You know, don't really think that GameStop's your only option. And if you do go to GameStop, you know, don't let them just talk you into certain things, like if that makes sense. You know, essentially just go to GameStop, find what you're looking for, and, you know, get out of there if you can. Because it's, you know, the website, like GameStop isn't really always the best website to go to or even the best store. Because, you know, again, you know, you can find anything on the internet, and, you know, I mean, who really doesn't have the internet anymore aside from, you know, maybe certain people, but again, you know, most people have the internet, so they can go to eBay, they can go to Amazon. Hell, there's even other websites out there that, you know, if you just type in the game you're looking for, I'm sure it would come up in their tag searches. But anyways, but the reason why, you know, most people don't like GameStop, but this really isn't, like, a lot of people don't really realize this, why people don't like GameStop. It's not just the shady business practices they have, but it's really more or less like, it's like kind of winning the lottery. You know, you're taking a risk when you go there. You're not really necessarily going there to see, you know, when you go to GameStop, like, you're hoping that they have what you're looking for. But when you go to GameStop, though, you know, it's not necessarily the like, it's not necessarily the like the best option. Like, they might pull a fast one on you. They might say, well, okay, you know, the best we can give you is like maybe 25 cents for this game, and maybe they're selling it for a little bit more on eBay, or not even half that. They won't even give you like maybe 25% of what people are selling it on eBay for. And, you know, yeah, give it, you know, eBay's always a little bit more than it should be, but at the same time, though, you'll be surprised that, you know, you can go there and do some stuff. But anyways, the thing that I don't really understand about GameStop, though, is that why do they go out of their way to rip people off, like, as much as they do? Like, you know, okay, yeah, they're a business, they're trying to take advantage of every opportunity they get, but, you know, but then you start getting into possibilities like for example, like, there are states where it's like legal to dumpster dive, and they throw a lot of stuff out, they being GameStop. And the major problem I've always had with GameStop is that they're just not fair to people about it. Like, for example, I've never been to a GameStop, but I've had a few friends of mine actually go there, and they've actually had someone actually salvaged, like, one of my friends was telling me, he found like 7 PS3 controllers that actually still worked, and he was able to solder a few of them together, and they worked. He probably found, like, I mean, PS3 controllers, I mean, they're still going for like $49.99 in some states, in some places, $39.99, and there's even people that are making their own third-party ones, which are really like very identical and still reliable, like $29.99 or something like that. I don't know, but it's pretty crazy though. But anyways, what I've noticed though is a lot of people just need to understand that, especially like when you go to GameStop though. I mean, you know, their attitude usually is if they can't sell it, then nobody can have it. Like, that's usually how some places go. Maybe not all places are like that, because again, some people tell me all the time that GameStop isn't necessarily like that, but when you really start to think about like what they do though to some places, and like how they, you know, it's not, you're not necessarily going to GameStop for the same reason that you might think. Like, there are people that go to GameStop to see if they can find something, and yet at the same time though, there's just some places that, you know, when GameStop is like your only option, you feel like, you know, there's other places that, you know, you feel like you're missing something. Like how, like, for example, like, some of the major problems people have with GameStop is that, you know, they overcharge things. There's even been some situations where, like, the used game prices were actually higher than the new prices. I don't know how the hell that happened, but it did. There's even been people that have complained that their refund value, like, for example, like, you'll get like 25 cents for some games, and maybe even like 50. Like, really, they don't, like, I mean, some people just outright question, especially the people that work there, like how they have their point of sale system. How exactly do they come up with the prices that they do? And some people just say they just charge whatever they want. Because again, when you're in a business, that's essentially, it's easier to charge somebody more for something than it is to turn around and say, oh, hey, you know, how much is this really worth? Not based off just what people are paying. Because again, you could go on eBay and people are always price gouging stuff. Again, like for example, you know, I mean, this is me personally, I always import my games. Retro games, any console, I'll play anything. The problem is though, I always import my games, again, not because I'm broke or anything, but because I always get them for a good price. People are always telling me, people always tell me that the U.S. market and the Japanese market are two entirely different markets. But really, what I don't understand is, if you can sell someone the exact same game, and mind you, like both regions of the games are the same, and the Japanese version might actually have more content and maybe a little bit more DLC, but the DLC is a little bit cheaper. I mean, why should you pay, like for example, I'll give you an example, like some of the older games. I bought, for the PS2, I recently bought, and maybe this isn't the best example because, even the Japanese prices are a little bit higher, but like Fatal Frame. Anybody remember the Fatal Frame series for PS2? And then I think they remade 4 and 5 for the PS3 and the Wii U and the PS4. I haven't played 4 and 5 yet, but from what I understand though, I got 1, 2, and 3 for the PS2, even though they were released on the original Xbox. Well, the first two had a director's cut version, but the third one didn't get a remake, so the PS3 version was on there. But I think they re-released it on the PSN store on the PS3. But anyways, I wouldn't mind paying full price for those games sealed, because those games are really awesome. But if you can still find a GameStop that still was willing to sell a game like that, or PS2 games, or maybe even, or let's do one better. Look at the whole issue with like some of the games that are like insanely priced. I'll give you another example. Look at like the original Tales of Destiny for the PS1. That game goes for like $150 with just the loose disc and all that. And it's only a 1 CD game, but for the PS1. But when you really do a little research, you could buy the Japanese version for not even maybe $20. And it's the same exact game, and it's like, why would you spend a little bit? Okay, different regions, different languages. Maybe some people don't necessarily know Japanese, and they don't want to region free their console because the PS1 was region. But you could disc swap a game out, and it'd be real easy to do that, especially for the PS1. But my point is though, GameStop, when you go to GameStop, you buy a game. It's expensive, okay? And they usually charge more than they should because they don't care about really trying to ask, because some people have argued that they just take their prices off eBay, what people are willing to pay. Okay, I can understand that, but technically speaking, as far as English market goes, okay, supply and demand isn't always necessarily what something should be worth. Again, if somebody I understand that maybe some people might disagree, or maybe a lot of people might disagree. But again, if you don't believe me, go on eBay and look at some stuff. There are some things on there that okay, if people are willing to pay for it, then yeah, I guess you could ask for that price. But at the same time, does that really mean that that's how much it's really worth, though? In a way, sometimes it's like people just. Because again, that's how people control the market. Again, look at the Pokemon games, for example. When Pokemon Go came out, Pokemon's huge, and even when Pokemon Go came out, despite what the reviews on the iPhone version of it, all the Pokemon games. I remember when they were only $19.99. I still have all my games, but look at for example, there were times when Pokemon Go came out, and the original Gen 1 games, they shot up $80-something, and it's for the people that wanted to play those games, it's holy shit, man. So the game, I saw people left and right buying them from as many people as they could, and they went on eBay and sold them. There was a guy that sold, I think he sold 300 copies of Pokemon Yellow, Blue, and Yellow, Pokemon Blue, Red, and Yellow. I think he had a couple green ones, which ones weren't imported, though. And, those games fucking sold for, almost $100 each. And, I only know how much money that guy made, but shit, man, that's $30,000 right there, if that's the case. But my point is, though, we went from, Pokemon Go was actually... It's actually a fun game to play, even though I haven't played it. But, but a lot of people, you look at, that as an example, though. You would be surprised that there's a lot of people that would realize that Game Freak and Nintendo, and I know Game Freak and Nintendo didn't make Pokemon Go, but, they essentially controlled the market with that, and their games went up in price, and their stocks went up in price as well. So much, in fact, that now apparently Nintendo's worth more than Sony. Even though I personally prefer Sony brand games instead, because I find a lot of original ones instead. And Nintendo's just kind of getting a little. Still waiting for Nintendo to come out with a newer game, but I still like Nintendo though, because I don't limit myself. But anyways, But what I don't understand though is, you go to GameStop and it's they try and do that. They try and pass off the prices that you see are they're worth more than they should be. But really, at the end of the day, there's people that could very well see more than, there's more than that. There's not, like, you shouldn't just go to GameStop and then think that, oh, that game's really worth that price. No, because I mean, again, you could probably find it cheaper somewhere else, and and then I mean, who's to even say that maybe the disc isn't even in good shape? We live in a day and age where, like, we got Blu-ray discs and all that, and maybe you might even run into like a DVD that you might have to pull out. And I mean, the game might be scratched up that the game doesn't necessarily play. I mean, okay, there's ways to get around this. And I mean, heck, if you even know somebody that has like what is known as a JPJ, for example, a disc cleaner, you could probably spend a few dollars and get the whole thing resurfaced. But at the same time, though, it really gets me, though, because like some of these games, like there's people that spend a lot of money on some of these games, and and it's like, well, what if they don't know how to back up a game properly? What if they don't know? Like, what if they don't want to do that? Then essentially, what you're saying is that they have to spend another $40-something, or maybe GameStop doesn't necessarily give them a refund, and they say that you're stuck with the one that you bought. I mean, I've seen that happen to people. Would you trust somebody like that? I know I sure as hell wouldn't. But again, this is coming from somebody who hoards his games. So I have like 8,000 something games, like physical copies. But I'm not kidding you, man. That's why I never sold my games, even when I don't want to play them anymore. Because who's to say that maybe one day I might want to play it again, and then it's like, at the end of the day, I very well just might, find myself having to pay like 3 times more than I originally did, like maybe 4 years ago. And the game's like $20. Again, look at the Pokemon games, for example. Were only $20 originally. Now they're up to like freaking 80, 100. And I mean, that's just normal. But geez, man, that's crazy. Heck, especially Soul Silver and Heart Gold, man. I mean, I'm glad I have both of them still with the Pokewalker. I'm not selling those games. But I'm not kidding you, man. You look at some of those other games, and people, they just outright sold those games. And people had to pay like almost $157 just to get them, maybe even more. It's crazy. But anyways, people, GameStop, when you go to GameStop, you're really just taking a risk. And who's to say that, and then the best they do for you is that, they don't want to give you, they don't want to be fair to you. They just want your money, just like a lot of other businesses do. But they don't want to be fair, though, to the point where, why should you have to tolerate that? You could go somewhere else. You could find a better deal. You could get stuff in a better condition. That's just the way it works. And honestly, the way I look at GameStop, again, I don't blame the people that work there as much as I blame the upper management. Because the upper management is the only reason why that their employees have to follow these corrupt procedures. Lie to their customers, lie about their policies. Because again, you can go on the internet and read everything that's on their front page, and that doesn't necessarily mean in reality that they do that. So if you really ask me, maybe you don't have any problems with GameStop, and that's cool. But at the same time, though, if you take my advice, though, I would just say be very careful. Before you go to GameStop, ask what you're looking for, and don't just accept something just because they give it to you. Always double check your work, and if you can find a better deal somewhere else, go there. Because again, it's like like my dad always used to tell me growing up. If people aren't going to be fair to you, then why should you be fair to them? If they're going to try and rip you off and say, oh yeah, the best we can give you is 25 cents. Well, no, I could turn around and sell this online. Maybe I might have to pay some commission fees. I might even have to wait a while. But mind you, I could still get more money from. I can eventually get all my money back somehow. Because keep in mind, the only reason why GameStop makes as much money as that they do is because a lot of people keep going there and keep selling them their money. So at the end of the day, if you think about it, why should you have to tolerate that when you can turn around and get a better deal yourself?